Happy 2024. Let's together do some twin flame inner work about how it actually works and how you can save time on the twin flame journey once you know that. So I made a model for you about how a twin flame union with inside of it a healthy relationship would approximately work. And I made this picture about that. I hope me explaining this is going to help you. So the core of your union is this beautiful heart. This is what you're actually longing for. This is living as one. This is a model. I tried to approximate what's going on as best as possible. It was actually sort of impossible to two-dimensionally show this to you, but I did my best. So here you have one of the pair of the twin flame. Let's say the divine feminine or the divine masculine. It actually doesn't really matter in this model for this moment. This point is one of the souls that together form the whole of the spirit whole with the union core at the core, which is a direct experience of source love. So this is one soul being incarnated in a separate body on earth, and this is the other one. And in a relationship, in the twin flame union with inside of it a relationship, this person, part of the union pair, has a relationship with itself. And these are the two arrows here. Relating to itself, relating to itself, relating to itself, relating to itself. And the other twin flame is relating to itself all the time as well. So they're sort of circling around themselves, you could say, to relate with themselves as much as they can, knowing that the core of them is actually the core of this, because this is colored in black, and this too, let's put it like that in this some sort of a model, right? They know that the blackness of the core of the union is in the blackness at the core of their dot, and they relate to themselves to make that as best as possible come true in their actual daily life, their actual social life, work life, physical life, etc. To express what that is, this core source love at the core of their twin flame union. Harmonious twin flame union is what we're talking about. And they do that, and they as well, with themselves, while being in a constant dance with the other twin flame. This is a dance with the twin flame, and they sort of move around the core of their union. They both move, and maybe they circle, or they dance, or they like three-dimensionally like circle around that core, both of them. Approaching them a little bit further away, but actually always in the same diameter, or how do you say that? Distance to their core of their union, which is the direct source relationship, or maybe like directly the source influence at the core of their union. So they dance around each other constantly, and they actually always do that. Also, when they're not in harmonious union yet, and not in union yet at all, you're still circling around your core of the union, together with them in a moving dance, approximately relating to this core. But when you're not in union and not in harmonious union, you might say that this is much further away, very unconscious, and much more wandered off from each other and from the union core. But once you start to listen inside of yourself to that let's say, the blackness in your soul core that is exactly the core of your union, and you start to relate to yourself better, keeping that in mind, or feeling it, or having it in your consciousness actually more, or having it in your energy field more, then these come more gravitating towards their union core, both of them, and towards the dance will be closer together and closer to the core as well. And it will become harmonized, and it will become regular, and it will become, when you commit to this dance, it will become a dynamic whole that always is at the same magnetizing power around each other. All right. That is the relationship that happens. And I made this whole dotted line around this whole phenomenon. And that actually is supposed to signify something that I was not able to draw in another way. You might question if this is the right way of drawing it, but it's a model. I try to approach something for you to make an educational statement. This means that the entirety of their togetherness with the two bodies, the two souls in their spirit core, with the source love directly inside of it, with a dance towards each other and a dance towards themselves. That whole thing only functions in a magnetizing field that is harmonized and relatively close together in an intimacy, etc., clicked into the harmonious union state of being, so that you really see this dance always, and it's always like close by, and it's always, you can hold it in your hands almost, and your consciousness and your energy live there, and it's conscious, you're fully there. That whole thing only happens because the whole of it relates to the divine directly, and that is what is supposed to represent this entire field around it, starting with the dotted line, is supposed to represent the field of, well, heaven, in fact, the divine in which this operates. And you're all the time relating to the divine with this entire thing, not only that person, not only this movement from this relating to that, or from that relating to that, or only this. The entire field is all the time relating to the divine, which is all around and actually also inside of this. And that's what I couldn't draw, you see? I couldn't draw that it is actually all around, inside and outside. But you're constantly in an interrelationship with the divine. Giving and receiving. In this movement, this dynamic whole of the union, harmonious union. And this is how it functions. This is the whole of it. It's a dynamic process that is like the giving and receiving of divine love in human beings. Now, how does it look like when you would compare that to your, let's say, your old-fashioned way of thinking about a love relationship? That is like, I want to fill in my lack of love, my lack of relating to my twin flame, my lack of relating to myself, my lack of relating to the divine, my lack of relating to my union, my lack of relating to source with someone else. And if that someone else has that more or less to the same degree as you could say that that is mutual and you get this love relationship. Well, as you see, that is pretty one-dimensional, right? And you're trying to fill in the lack of love. It's not colored in here. It's open. The hearts are open with one another. All right. So that is what usually happens. There's a lot less to say about it, although you could very elaborately talk about the lack of love, because that's what this signifies as well, very much. The lack of love. And you want to go from that model that I just presented to this model. And there is a huge difference, as you see. The relating is different. The way you are engaged with each other and yourself and your soul and the core of your union and the divine is different. And it's not only different, it's pretty much the opposite, because this model has empty hearts, right? And they are searching for their coloring in from each other at each other's place. It's in very many ways pretty much the opposite. Also, this is very three-dimensional, and this is very two-dimensional. There's not a lot to it. And because there is such a big difference, and there is in many ways there's like an opposite between those both those ideas. That's why going from the one model of the empty hearts to the twin flame union model with the filled hearts, with the dance among each other in the union and relating to the divine, is a lot more than just a little self-love, because then you would just feel in the heart, okay, cool, that's great. It's not that you wouldn't need to do that when you go to the twin flame model, so to speak. You would, but there's a lot more to it. And that means that because it's also some sort of an opposite, you need a model of a tool that will get you there, that has not only self-love, filling yourself up with self-love, but also a turn around of many aspects. And that's why in the key tool that I teach for twin flame union success, with the 4 steps inside of it, we have 2 versions. They're taught in my Facebook group called Your Abundance, and you would be very welcome to come practice it with us there. You see that you do need to turn something around always. What you see outside, you turn it around inside yourself. What your emotional reaction is to the outside, you turn it around inside yourself until you have a feeling, inner quality distilled from what once was a reaction of emotions to the outside world. And now it's an inner quality that you own. Turned it around. So that is pretty much what is needed. Now, another thing that you can also conclude from all of this is that you would want to have a tool, a way to shortcut being here in this dynamic whole, or here, being here in this dynamic whole. How can we get from being this empty heart and step into this reality already, even maybe without the other twin flame knowing about it, maybe without even knowing who the true twin flame is at this moment, without coercing them to play with you, because there's no coercion in twin flame union, in harmonious twin flame union. how can we step into this world with these relationships and energy movements happening correctly? How can we sink into this reality out of the reality where you were with the empty heart? How can we step into this already from your initiative, stepping in right here? And then you will indeed call in the rest. You call in the approximate, yeah, that's I guess how you say it, relationship with the heart of your union. You call in the twin flame being closer relating to you. You call in the vital exchange with the divine in and around you. Everything will be there. So this is the time saver that you are looking for. How to save time on the twin flame journey. Step into this reality already on your own. And the rest will be filled in when you commit to this and you maintain this reality for yourself. So, how can you step into that reality for yourself, which would be your time saver? Because you are a worthy and whole part of this equation here, of this model. It depends on you taking your place in that dynamic whole now, so that the rest of that, it's almost like a planetary constellation, isn't it? The rest of that planetary constellation will be called in, will come in for you and move around you. It will, because it's law. Because when you take in your place, the rest will come in orbit also, in and around you, because it's already there, because it's the truth, and nothing but the truth. And when you step into that, the truth must manifest, and you will find what it is. So twin flames do not focus on each other, but are a dance within the union frame that relates to and focuses on the divine. That's the summary of what that is, that you're going to step in to save time on your accord, by your decision. And as you can see, again, stepping into that and not focusing on each other, but on the dance within the union frame that relates to and focuses on the divine, it is a lot about those dotted lines. It is a lot about the arrows. It is about the relationship that these aspects have towards each other. So what is it that you are going to step into when you want to step into that model to save time, to go to your twin flame union and call it in? It is that you're going to step into relationship and the quality of that. You're going to conjure from yourself this quality of relationship, the being of the dotted line, the being of the arrows relating to itself. Relating is central for saving time on the twin flame journey. Once you start relating, you pretty much have a big part of that whole drawing already inside of you, because it consists of dotted lines and arrows. You see? That's the relating. So that's where you need to focus on relating. And most of the time, we just really haven't even learned what that is. And that would be crucial for you to understand and to admit to yourself. And once you can admit that you don't know what relationship is, you haven't really learned that, or not in the right way, not in the freedom and depth of the soul, in the divine light, then you can start to really learn this. But first you gotta understand that it is good to admit you don't know what relationship is, because otherwise you would already live there, isn't it? So relationship is the time saver. Step into relationship. Yes, with yourself. Yes, with your twin flame. Yes, with the union core. Yes, with the divine relationship. So we don't really know what that is, and I think we're going to find out something about that by getting some cards. And this is this one and this one? I'm not sure. I think this one. The personal wisdom card deck. Let's see. In which need do you feel frustrated when you are angry? It's a Dutch message. I translated it for you. In which need do you feel frustrated when you are angry? Well, that's of course very much unrelational when you're frustrated and become angry. So when you want to be in relationship, you have to take care of your own needs, and you have to take care of how you relate to anything that you need and with which emotions you do that. And now I took the other as well. You better see the humor of this whole situation, which is a fun additional message here, because your own needs that you are going to relate to, and you let, importantly, the divine relate to your needs as well, so that they will be filled by being, right, by the divine itself, without being overly active to fill it up, which is the spiritual depth of needs. But when they're not filled up yet, and you're still in your personality instead of your soul, then you might feel frustrated by not having your needs met. But seeing the humor of it can certainly help, because in spiritual light, needs are actually taken care of in the bigger whole by your soul connecting to its source. And then it just happens in a bigger whole of movements in relationship. So that would be pretty much a sign that you're not yet there, that you're in the empty heart space when you have needs and are frustrated about it. So seeing the humor of that situation, because it can't be real, because in reality your relationship with the soul, between the soul and the divine, and that takes care of your needs. So that just opens the door to to understand that one, which is the deeper truth of the matter. So, and now we're going to get some cards from the spiritual card deck. God has unending love and never-ending patience too. You are allowed to take as long for this as you find necessary. Well, there you go. For this whole movement that I just talked about, which was a whole thing. I just talked about needs and that you have to fulfill them yourself, but you can be seeing the humor of it as well, and start to understand that in the bigger whole of relationship, your soul is relating to the divine, and that takes care of your needs. Because you are a relationship. You just didn't know that. And God gives you the unending love and unending patience to find all that out and live that reality. And this is a whole thing that you have to uncover for yourself. Exactly just what I just said. But you have to uncover for yourself that this is true. I did that. It's a beautiful journey. You got to test it, you know. You got to make it come true. And God gives you all the time in the world that you need to make that come true for yourself. And these are steps on the journey towards living here in the time saver of relationship. So if you really want to save time, you actually don't take forever for it, but you just accept what is just been said right now. So you can just step into what I'm pointing out, right? That's where the true time saver comes in. And that's then also the value of a teacher. So that's another way of seeing it that would actually be very conducive. So now we're going to look into the Native American cards. Oh, 31. This is the, how is it called? The totem, of course. Yeah. And the teacher stands on the shoulders of many other teachers to bring you this message, right? So the totem is something that stands for the long tradition of teachers and of spiritual truth that we're really addressing today. And it stands for belonging. A totem is similar to a heraldic emblem of our family or clan. Right. Sometimes they are revealed during rites of passage or initiation via a vision. Totems represent the powers and protections provided by being part of a group, as well as the responsibilities and obligations of all members of that group. When you are uncertain of which action to take, look to your own totem, whether personal or sacred, or shared, personal or shared, or sacred, of course. Acknowledge your core beliefs and act accordingly. Belonging, guidance, support, roots, family, the past, origins, safety, long-lasting commitment. Right. So it really is about getting into the relationship, which is a rite of passage, because you're going to get into the mutual relationship with the divine, and that's a sign for that. This totem is a sign for that, a symbol for it, to get into this reality where you save time as a twin flame. Yeah, it is really a transformation that can have a symbol or a totem, like you crossed this reality into the other reality, some sort of a thing, you know, and the totem was the symbol between both, that divides between both. I don't know, something like that. You come in another world, you truly do, that's true. So you feel different, you know. Don't expect that how you feel about yourself before harmonious union is the same as afterwards. It's really different. I just say that a lot. It's different than you think it is. And that's good, because that's what you actually want. Don't forget that. We all want to be happy. That's what it's all about. And it might feel different than you think. So now we're going to look in the Egyptian cards. And it does say initiation, entrance to holy and spiritual knowledge. Seems like a window or a gate. It's the two eyes of Horus to look at the sun or a star. Check your personal ideas with truth. Well, that's what we're doing here today. You will be tested in the near future. Visualization You are melting with your higher consciousness. Beautiful. I think that's what we're talking about indeed. And yeah, I mean, I hope that we're testing this, in reality, because otherwise it means nothing. I feel like we need another one. We're going to take this one. Abundance. And doesn't twin flame union lead to abundance? Yes, it does. The riches of the universe that are always present. Just like this sun is always present, protected by these sort of angelic figures, at least with wings. Dare to experience what you want to attract. That is indeed exactly what we're talking about, because if you want to experience this twin flame union relationship movements, right? You do need to open yourself for that reality that it is here. You do need to dare to feel these relationships, these dotted lines. It's real. It's not a fantasy, this relationship. You do need to dare to open, to really feel it. Your wish will be made come true. That's just what this card says, folks. Well, there you go. That's what we wanted when we started to talk about the time-saving method to come in the relationship that is union. Affirmation. Abundance is my birthright. And isn't that true? And this is why I talk about twin flame abundance, which is the truth and the heart of your union, the heart of your relationship reality. And of course, it also translates into the abundance of money coming back to you when you find your mission inside of your union and start to share that with other people, and they give back to you as well. Let's look into the Mary Magdalene Oracle cards. Oh, well, okay, let's get this one. It was sticking out immensely. And this, what we're talking about and revealing, is of course the divine order. This is what it says in Dutch here. This figure representing the divine order, and it has some sort of whole universes in her arms and around her too, with all kinds of forms and, I don't know, like mountains and relationships, right? And vortexes with energy and whatnot. So yeah, that is the movement in the union hall that we are talking about. That is the movement happening in your real life union reality. And I think that one way to really get into this reality of divine order is forgiveness. And that might actually be like the highway to stepping into this time-saving twin flame model that you step into and make come true by your choice. Forgiveness. And you can forgive yourself. You can forgive yourself by the grace of your divine core. And I've talked about this in an earlier video recently. Also a longer video about doing inner work. And we closed our eyes and researched what we could forgive about ourselves, to take responsibility of any twin flame reality situation that you are not liking or complaining about, upset about. And by forgiving your part of it, you have done the inner work necessary to make that transform into something loving that comes there instead. And I actually want to add to that today, because yes, that is what technically happens inside of doing the inner work that we're talking about, and inside of the step that you need to take from the one model to the other model that we've discovered today. That is indeed that any situation that is here that is preventing you from stepping into that time saver new relationship situation, even when you think it is caused by your twin flame or even someone else or even by God, your quick route is to research what your contribution is to that and processing that one, because that's where your empowerment lies. That is true. That is part of what happens there in that inner work. And yeah, that is always what we do. Is the way how you can contribute to change in the situation and making this situation the highway to go to that time-saving relationship situation in your union. But there's a big but. There is something more to add to this story. More to add to the story of forgiveness. There's an elongation that I haven't addressed yet and that I want to address today. And that is that when you have done that sufficiently, you will find yourself in a situation where you will experience that the whole situation that you were talking about before, with them and their contribution, that you were pointing out, that was outside of yourself, that you did not like, that was preventing you from union, and your contribution to that situation even being there, them included, and you have processed that one too for yourself, fully and completely. Now you will find yourself in a situation where that entire situation and the thing that you were upset about will disappear from your consciousness completely. And you will arrive in the reality that you have forgiven for something that never existed, because now you processed it. Now it's over. Now it's done. Now that process is completed, that healing is done. You've taken your responsibility. That changed everything. That made the whole thing disappear in your world. And your world is the world for you and your perception. And it is genuinely gone. That was it. It's gone to the past. It's not here anymore. It doesn't exist anymore, to such a degree that you can admit to yourself that it is as if it never existed. And that brings you to the reality that it indeed had never existed in the first place. It never existed. You have forgiven to the degree of that it never existed at all. And that's where you're free. And that's where you can take your place in the moving planetary system that is your union. In freedom, without guilt, without shame, without fear, in your original purity. And that's how it happens. That's your time saver. That's how you step into your union relationship dynamic in the purity of it, which is intimate and always here, and always relating, and always moving, and always being fed by the relationship with the divine. You have forgiven to such a degree that it never existed in the first place. And you have made that come true inside yourself for real. And that's how you get there. The true time saver. So let's try to get some confirmation with the angel cards. Why not? Angel answers, right? They always have these nice, concise answers. Not the right time. There are things for which it is not the right time. Which doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But it's not the right timing yet, because you haven't forgiven yourself yet. And within that action of the forgiving, you haven't brought it yet to the degree of that you have forgiven until you have made come true that it never existed at all. And it had never existed. And that's where you know that you have stepped into the divine order that is your union relationship. So that means it's not the right time yet, and you can do something about that yourself, 100%. And when you've done that, you stepped into your abundance, because it's always abundant to be there. There's no twin flame union that is not abundant in love, in divine wisdom, and everything that you in your union always already longed for. Yes, that is so. And you can trust that. You can have faith in that. First, have faith in your connection with your source. And then you can start to work on trusting. Trusting the process. Trusting the time saver. Trusting the theory model of the planetary constellation that your union is. Trusting that forgiveness, until you've forgiven to the degree that it never happened at all, is your time-saving method to get yourself in that relationship dynamic that is union. And I truly hope this helped you. Thank you very much for attending our inner work of today. It feels completed to me. Let me know in a reaction comment underneath this video how that is for you. And let's meet again real soon. Love from Petra.